office, and it's just sort of, I end up giving the shirts away at events. Yes, people buy them and you can buy them on my site, but overall I think swag has been really fun for me, but I have never really made money at it. The necklace is $65. A couple people have bought it. It makes me really happy when they do, but it's not really something that I have ever felt has been a great benefit to my business. That being said, if it's fun for me, that's a benefit to my business.
That's what I agree. I think it's super fun, and it's nice when your friends get to wear your stuff.
That's true.
So I love wearing this shirt. It makes me feel cool. I made these for the project that I have called Rebella Beautiful Rebel. So I made these shirts. I printed them in South Africa, and I love handing them out to friends. If I know they're doing exercise or doing meditation, it's a cool thing to wear. One of the first merch things I ever made were these badges that I'm wearing when my company was still called Malva. These are called Malva Light, and it stood for Mad, Cool, Enlightened Human Doing. And I would award them to people in my hometown, Durban. I would give them to people I thought were very cool, and you couldn't buy them, you had to be awarded them. And so I was like the queen of what was cool, which I think are these badges.
They really are. I have one. It's on my bulletin board.
Yeah, I have one too.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say about merch is a lot of people do shirts, and they do that thick, uncomfortable material, and you know what? People are only going to wear that to sleep in, or they're going to throw it away. So I say spend the extra money on getting like a Bella t-shirt or something that's like soft and
something you
luxurious
would wear.
And that you're going to want to wear when you meditate, which leads us into our guest today, who I am super excited to have. So, after leaving her job as Executive VP of Comedy Development at NBC, the nearly 20-year entertainment industry executive created the Den Meditation, which is in Los Angeles. She's been featured on the cover of Mindful magazine, and the Den has been featured in both the LA Times, the New York Times, Cosmo, Mind, Body, Green, Well and Good, Harper's Bazaar, the list goes on. She is also the host of the hit podcast, Den Talks. Please welcome today's SHEeo, Tal Rabinowitz.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome. So great to have you here.
It's nice to be here.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you know, I like fangirled out over you when I met you at a party, which I'm not used to doing over like CEOs. But I am such a fan of the Den, but also how you put this business together and how you kind of, I want to say, launched the trend of meditation studios.
I mean, it's been such an interesting road. I don't think I would have ever started a business, even though I've always had a million ideas, just because I'd be like, ugh, the rights and the wrongs, and I don't want someone to tell me you can't do it this way. But I think because I had an idea that at that time was not being exploited, I was like, oh, no one can tell me I'm doing it wrong. So like, let me just try it and do it. So it was really, I think, helpful. And look, it was just something I was looking for. And I think that's really helpful too.
Yes.
So the whole time I just kept in mind, like, what were you needing? What did you want? What is it that would fill this hole that you couldn't find?
Totally. So what would you describe that hole as being? What was the need?
Well, for me at the time, I started meditating when I was, running comedy at NBC, and I was really just struggling to do it on a regular basis. It's hard, like most people. Some people are amazing at working out at home. Some people are amazing at jogging around the city, right? And some of us have to go to a yoga class or Pilates class, or now it's CrossFit. And I'm just one of those. It's like I need to show up somewhere and be told what to do a little bit. Not that I can't meditate on my own, but I just need to be held accountable.
Yeah.
So it was, where can I go to be held accountable so I can sit there? Even if I do my own meditation, I know I'm carving out that space. I'm forcing myself. And then I took it one step further as I would go to different places around here where you could meditate, but they were always like 2.5 hours. They're more like temples. And I was like, oh God, so many people would never do this. Now times have changed since this, so people are more open now. But back then I was like, hey, I don't want people to feel like they're subscribing to a certain philosophy or lineage or religion. I want everyone to feel comfortable. I don't want people to feel like you have to be super woo-woo to do this. Like you should be able to show up in a suit. You should be able to show up like if you were just surfing. Like it should be able to be for anybody. So combining those two ideas of like accessibility, needing to be held accountable, that's how kind of the Den arose.
Your aesthetic is so stunning. Like that's one of the things.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll
but it's specific. I was going to say it's very specific to the point of what I'm saying is I wanted every single person to walk in the door and feel comfortable.
Yeah, it's almost like a home, like this beautiful.
And that's what it was supposed to be. It's like, how can we create a living room that people would want for themselves, but feel like I want to hang out here, and it should appeal to almost everybody. Obviously, everyone has their own taste, but like, how can anyone from any age, any walk of life walk in here and be like, oh, I feel comfortable. This is good for me. That was the most important thing, is everybody is welcome. Really.
So I'm obsessed with how things are done. Did you raise money? How did you do this? Did you write a business plan?
I did write a business plan more for myself-ish. Self-funded because what I started this conversation with is it was really important for me to do it the way I wanted to do it. And I'm glad. Now look, there are hard parts about that, and there's still hard parts. Like sometimes I'm like, oh God, I wish we totally like went with someone huge, because as you have more ideas, you wish you had an empty bank account sometimes. I mean, you know what I mean? But it was, at the same time though, the purity of what I wanted to create was there.
Yeah.
And that you don't get usually if you have investors.
So you basically said, I'm gonna find a place. You found this gorgeous place on La Brea.
Yeah, it was like an empty box though. We created that. And then we added on because the store next door left. And it was funny, as we were doing construction and we were putting up this brick wall, I kept saying to my contractor, I'm like, I just have this feeling that we're gonna have to knock down this wall. Now we didn't end up knocking down the wall. We just kind of knocked the doorway in and added the annex, which is you were in. But I remember the whole time we were doing it, I'm like, I just have this feeling. I knew, and it was like 6 months later.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So you launch. Was it terrifying to put your own money in?
Terrifying. Now,
Yeah.
I've said this to anyone, like to start your own business, and you guys understand this, there's just a lot of crazy involved. Like you have to be slightly crazy because there is this idea of you're invincible in some ways. And I remember the moment, because like I was, you know, doing everything I could doing, planning it, and then I finally went to go look for a space, and I was up against like a very established company for this space. So honestly, I was like, I'm never getting it. This business isn't really established. I'm not established, so they have to just kind of take my word for it and trust. And I remember being on the phone. I had to like actually get on a plane to Israel. My grandmother had just passed, and I was on the phone with the realtor who was renting the space, and she just started asking me a ton of questions. And one of the questions was, is this gonna work? And I remember just being like, of course it's gonna work. And then I was like, I hope it's gonna work. Like, I'm like, of course it's gonna work. But what I did say is, I promise you, you don't know me, but anything I put my mind to, I will surely do my best, and it will work. And I remember landing, because I had a connecting flight, and I got an email saying, congratulations, you got the space, here's a lease, sign it. And I remember feeling like I won a marathon.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. I mean, I had nobody to talk to. There were strangers sitting next to me. I was walking in the airport like, and I remember I got on one of those like, you know,
Conveyor.
thank you, conveyor belts set out, you walk down the hall. And the minute I took the step, it was almost symbolic, I got the biggest pit in my stomach. And it was that moment that I went from like, I won, to being like, wait, you didn't win anything.
Yeah.
You didn't win anything. It all starts right now.
Yeah.
And then me going, oh God, I have to actually now get a business to work and be viable to justify this money. I mean, and then all of a sudden the reality set. And I remember being like, do not let this fear overtake you. Do not. Like, the fear is gonna be healthy. The fear is gonna keep you in check. So remember that you have this fear, and let this fear be a healthy dose of fear, so you don't use the crazy and go totally out there, which I think is possible for people. We've seen it. But I also remember being like, but let it go right now. Let it go and get back to that confidence. And there is, you guys know, there is that balance, I think, with starting a business, that you just have to be like, I can do this, I'm gonna do it, put my head down, but also like, okay, the fear's there for a reason, to
Yeah, that
remind
doesn't
me.
go away.
And also remind you, it keeps you grounded. So you don't just be like, oh, I can do whatever I want. It reminds you like to be smart with your choices. You know what I mean?
Where do you think this comes from? This desire to like not, when you said I want to do it my way, I've got a very specific way.
I am.
Where
I was
everyone
born
like,
that way.
Yeah.
Just stubborn.
because like so many people
She's
want to
an
fit.
Aries.
I'm an Aries. Yeah, we were talking about that
Aries
early.
now.
No, but it's true. I am definitely not a follower.
Yeah.
I've never been that way. If anything, I get a little nervous when too many things start to feel alike. So that's just inherent in my personality, I think. And like I said, I don't think I could have just been like, I'm trying to think what other businesses. I don't think I'd be able to be like, let's start a juice bar. As amazing as I might have had a great idea for it or a great aesthetic for it, I would have felt like, no, it's done. So I don't want to copy anyone.
Yes.
If that makes sense. And I remember, and there's a place, Unplug, which I love very much, and Mindful opened the same time we opened in New York, and we're really close to the Mindful people. Unplug opened right before us, and I remember being like, stay in your own lane, pay attention, keep doing your vision of it.
Right.
And it almost, I was almost like, well, maybe I shouldn't do it, because the whole point was like I had an idea that didn't exist. And I was like, no, like your idea is very specific. And it was totally different.
They are very different.
Yeah.
So different.
Into
Very
both.
different vibe.
Absolutely, so different. And so that's why I was like, keep doing you. Just keep doing you.
It's kind of like when the movie, Dracula comes out, and then there's like 6 Draculas,
Right.
and you're like, but how are you all in development at the same time?
I mean, it's creative consciousness. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, there's no original idea. I try and tell that to everybody. Like, you may think you're a genius, you're not. You just have the ability, like you and I were talking about, to connect to a bigger energy
Just to
source.
access it.
Yeah, and it is this creative consciousness. They're all flying up there. It's like, what ability do you have to catch the idea? And then even furthermore, what's your ability to be able to act on it? Because how many people sit there and like, I had that idea once, blah, blah, blah.
All the
And,
time.
I mean,
Yeah.
please,
Talk about that
I thought
all
of
the
things
time.
in 5th grade because I used to cut my controlled top pantyhose all the time, and like, but I didn't do anything with it. I mean, I didn't realize that could be a business.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it.
Yeah.
She did.
People
you know
are
what I mean?
very precious
Totally.
with their ideas and they mean absolutely nothing.
No, it's who acts on it,
Yeah.
who has the ability to put it through, and also like who had the ability to take the idea and then know that it could be more versus just letting it sit there and talk about it. It's all part of it.
Yeah.
So my obsession with practicality, when did it become profitable?
You know, we were really lucky. It's funny because this is going to be a hard year for us because there's so many laws that just changed in California with employments and stuff. So I mean, any of these like smaller studios or even like nail places, I would guess, or places, it's a whole different business now. So it's taking like a year to readjust. But we were lucky, like pretty off the bat, it started paying for itself.
That's amazing.
So we were really lucky. And look, again, it's all about, it's not us. Like we opened and it was like, there was a huge article about meditation like a week later. You know what I mean? We just lucked out.
Just aligned.
Sometimes you luck out. Yeah, everything aligns. I remember when I was right before we were opening and I was telling people what we were going to do, people looked at me like I was crazy. And then yet 3 weeks later, all of a sudden it's like, everyone's talking about meditation. So things just sometimes, you're in the right energy at the right time, you know, and you get the flow.
Yeah. What's your vision now for the next couple of years? I know you don't like to plan too far ahead.
I don't. It's funny, and it changes. We're launching a digital platform called Den Anywhere soon, actually, probably in the
Great.
summer. Yeah. So it'll be a part of our website where you just have access to everything. So we'll have any of different types of our workshops. So if you want to learn something more, a lot of our certifications will be on there, and then a ton of free meditations. We didn't want people to spend money on that. So it's like anywhere from 5 minutes to 45-minute meditations of pretty much of our classes. So those will be available and free to all. So our whole point there is if you can't walk in the door, but you still, you know, want access and want to dive deep and expand and learn what we're teaching and what you can do, now you have the ability.
And it's an app as well?
It's not an app yet. We're just going to do the website first, and then we'll make it into an app.
And then let's talk about how you certify teachers and how you became one of them.
Yes, and I teach Kundalini, which is a different type of meditation and yoga. We have a great certification program, which is a 400-hour meditation program, which is huge. And it's amazing. We've gotten some incredible teachers out of it. It's been awesome to watch
A lot
people
who have
grow.
come to work for you?
Yeah, like a handful. I mean, we only always have so much space. So like as people rise, like we do what we can do. But yeah, like there's a chunk on our schedule that all came through the program,
So
which I
cool.
love. I
Yeah.
mean, again, that's part of, I didn't just open this because of a business. I opened it because I was looking for it because I was growing myself. And even in my old job, one of my favorite things to do as a manager was always like watch people grow and like show people what you're good at and how you can expand in it. And so to see that from this angle too has been one of the best parts, for sure.
So how do you
sure.
keep yourself motivated now, like with your own vision? How does this keep feeding you? Are you bored of it? Do you want something
You know,
else?
I grow too, and so that's
Okay.
the best part. And part of it's like my own practice. So I think we were talking about this earlier. I'm teaching also now.
Okay.
Just something I never thought I would do, like ever. I was like, I'm not a teacher, and I was very respectful that like I went and found the best teachers. And I was always like, not for me, I'm not a teacher. And it was interesting to watch my journey change, and as my practice got deeper and stronger, and how that's changed for me. And so that's been an amazing opportunity, which is also great to have that perspective of the business too. So in that sense, what hasn't changed for me is watching the effect on people and watching people literally like change lives and therefore changing what's happening in the world. That part is still there. And I say that with humility. I don't say that with like, oh my God, that's what our business is. That's why anything that pops up, I'm like, fantastic. We all have the same goal. So that's what I just try and keep in mind all the time. I actually try, I think I'm less obsessed with the success of the business now than I probably was when it first opened. And I really just try and stay aligned with what the goal was. And I believe that if I stay aligned with what the goal was, it'll help itself. Does that
Yeah,
make sense? Like I
totally.
feel like if I can stay pure in what we're doing, it'll do what it's supposed to do. And
Yeah.
so that helps.
And
a
give you
little
what
bit.
it needs you for you.
It'll for what I need, for what everyone else needs, it's success, whatever happens, like I'm always like, it'll be exactly what it's supposed to be. A little bit, we were talking about that too.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't mean to be, I'm not doing this to be sycophantic, but I walked out of there and I was like, people talk about doing good in the world, but let's say 40 people are walking out and they're going to be smiling and they're going to be getting in traffic and they're going to be letting people in front of them, then those people are going to learn
Yeah.
from that. And it's this
It
domino
spreads.
effect. And it's the kind of